Hello sewing friends, it's been a long time. My name is Branelyn Dailey, and today on Dailey Sews Stuff, we are going to be talking about Affinity Designer and using that to adjust your patterns before you project them to start sewing. So for those of you that don't know, my whole channel pretty much has been focused on projector sewing. And that's where you take a projector, you project a pattern from your computer right onto your fabric and cut it straight out. It's amazing. It cuts out so many steps and is so fast and easy. The problem that many sewists then have is, how do I make my pattern adjustments? I am 4'11". I am usually a mix of at least 2, if not more sizes. I have lots of adjustments I end up needing to do on patterns. So I decided that I wanted to learn to do that digitally because I didn't want to have to do any of the paper stuff anymore. So I began to learn the program Affinity Designer, and I use that to adjust my sewing patterns before I ever get to projecting them. That way when I cut them out, they're exactly the way I want them to be. Through the years of doing this, I eventually created a course for that. You can find that on my website, AD, which stands for Affinity Designer, ad4sewing.com, and I'll put a link in the description box. It's not possible for me to cover every adjustment in my course. So today's video is a little bit like a bonus lesson for the course, showing you how to make a lining pattern from your regular pattern. This is the Love Notions Timbre, and I love it. This fabric came from Surge Fabric Shop, honestly, probably 7 years ago. And it took a long time for me to decide what I wanted to make with it, and this is what it was. I love this shirt. It's one of my favorite shirts. I wear it to work all the time. But recently I got an advertisement about some other fabric that Surge had, and I had to have it, and I purchased it. And then I had to figure out what to make with it. And timber is what came to mind. Because this fabric has these little embroidery holes in it, it needed to be lined so that it could be a shirt that I would wear to work also. And I wanted to do it in a specific way because I still wanted the embroidery of the shirt to be shown off. So we're going to cut to the video of me designing the pattern piece on Affinity Designer, and then I will at the end show you the end result. Stick around. So as I said in my introduction, I am going to make a version of the Love Notions Timbre top, which timbre looks like timber. It's a musical thing. It's a French word. It's just all messed up, but that's okay. So this is basically what it looks like if you just open the projector file without doing anything else first. Now, I am going to run it through PDF Stitcher or Pattern Projector to get it reduced down to this view because that's the size that I need to work with. And then I further reduced it down to this view previously when I made the floral top that I was wearing in the introduction. When I went to make this embroidery top, I started with this file, and I then made adjustments to work with the embroidery, right? I wanted to cut it along the embroidered edge for the sleeve and for the peplum, and obviously the sleeve had to be cut straight rather than curved. This is how I wanted things to be cut, and I really wanted to cut my fabric on the flat for the bodice for 2 reasons. Number one, it was kind of hard to cut over where there was the doubled embroidery, and also because I really wanted to play with the placement of where the embroidery would fall on both of these pieces since they're the main pieces. So I was able to do that, and then because I cut these double, I was able to have them lined up perfectly, and in my world, that was the best way to handle all of this. This is how I made my pattern to cut my embroidered top. Well, once I cut that embroidered top, then I realized I needed a lining, and so here I am going to start with this and adjust this so that it can help me cut my lining. Now, I'm going to plug myself here and say that I have a course that you can purchase that walks you through everything you need to know about using this program, Affinity Designer, to adjust your sewing patterns. And it will take you from very, very, very beginner, you haven't even used this program before, to proficiently able to get your patterns to this stage, which is really nice for projecting, exporting it, and then even, what programs do I recommend? How should you project? Those sorts of things. So that is a really useful course that will help you follow along with what I'm doing here. I am not going to take the time to talk you through every little thing here, but I'm going to view this as a little bit of an add-on to the course and a little bit of showing what the course is like. Now, the first thing is I don't care about this embroidered edge, folded edge right now. I don't care about this piece of fabric. That's my quote unquote piece of fabric. So I'm going to delete those things off of there. I am going to keep my scale right there because I just love to have that to double check. I am going to leave the front and back bodice alone. I might go back to have that on the fold in a minute. But the front and back bodice, I want to fully cut out of the lining and fully sew with the lining. Now, I don't want to fully line the sleeves, but because this is a raglan sleeve, I do want to fully line where my shoulders are, the tops of my shoulders, so that my bra strap won't show. And I also am considering whether or not I want to line the peplum at all. If I do line it, I'm going to want it shorter so that the embroidery has a chance to show off at the bottom, but I might choose not to line it at all. Either way, I want to have the option to cut it whenever I get there. So here is what I am going to do. I'm going to leave those two alone right here, and I'm going to work on these pieces. Now, I have grouped these pieces, so I'm going to scooch that over there. I'm going to scroll. I'm going to enlarge. I've got a cheat sheet in my course with all of these shortcuts, and my course also has this fun little thing here in the corner that will pop up and show you anytime I'm using a keystroke. That way you can follow along. So basically, I need to cut a line here that doesn't go into the sleeve portion but covers the shoulder portion. But I also need to think through, I'm going to need a hem for this. So what I think is going to work is I'm going to ungroup my piece. So ungroup a few times. Then I think I want to take this line and I want to shift it up. And I'm going to think about this. Now, how far down this piece do I want that? So actually, I think the best thing will be is if I scoot that all the way up to there. And I want to line up this corner right there. Now, I am going to want to follow this line down, and I can probably just hem it by running a seam on my serger. I just need to finish it. It doesn't have to be a true hem, huh? So actually rethinking this again, I only want that about 1/4 inch down. Now, I can't use my transform box to move that 1/4 inch down because this is not a straight line. So I'm going to make myself a little square, and I'm going to make that square 1/4 inch. And then with my arrow tool, I can move this square over here, and I can rotate that square until it is lined up. Okay, now I can move this to the bottom of that. So that means I'm just going to run my serger that don't delete that 1/4 inch across this to finish that edge. And then my shoulder will be covered, but the fall of the sleeve itself, I guess, versus the sleeve head, will not be covered. And I think that's what I want. Now, as you can see, the curve of that means that it's not lining up exactly over here. So we are going to fix that. Here we go. Now, that's about right. Now we need to fix the curve of this to make this intersect where we want it to. So I'm going to use this transform origin tool. I'm going to grab the origin point and move it over here where I don't want that to move. And then when I rotate this up, I can get it right there. Now, obviously this is too long. Lots of options here, but what I'm going to do is right here where they intersect, I'm going to add a node, and then I'm going to break that node, and then I can delete the stuff I don't need. All right. So there's a lot of deleting stuff you don't need when you do this. For this line, I am going to kind of do it the opposite way. I'm going to give myself a node, break the line, and get rid of the bit I don't need. And same thing here. We'll give ourselves a node right there, break that line, get rid of that little bitty piece we don't need anymore. Okay, so I'm also gonna, well, I guess we need the part that says cut to, but I'm gonna say lining. All right, and that bit here, this we can move over this way, and this straight of grain will scooch up this way, and we'll just kind of have that hovering nearby so we know what that is. And now I'm going to regroup all those things. Okay, it looks kind of funky, but that's what I think is going to work for my sleeve lining. Now, let's go over here and do the same thing here. So, rather than cutting 2 on the fold, I'm cutting 2 on the flat at the same time, if that makes sense. That just worked best for the way I was cutting the fabric before. I'm not entirely sure that that works best for the lining, but I think it'll work good enough, so I'm just going to leave it be. So same thing, basically. I need to isolate this line right here. Now, I just was able to click enough times to get that line isolated. Now, the really awesome thing here is we can just put the lines where we want them because this is straight up and down. So I'm going to move this line over the top of this other line, and I'm going to move it up the exact amount I want. I'm going to say 3 inches and see where that gets me. Ooh, that would be very tiny. I don't think that's right. You know what I want to do? I think I want to know how long is this line? That might inform this. So this line I can see right here is about 8.5 inches. So I think what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to line that up there. And now on the y-axis, I'm going to subtract 4 inches. And I think that's probably not quite enough. So let's undo that. Well, and let's try instead 5 inches. Yeah, you know what? That looks a lot better to me. So it would be this short little peplum. And see, I'm not really sure how that would fall and how it's going to end up looking. But I definitely want to leave plenty of my embroidery room at the bottom. So we're just going to have this available if we want to cut it later. And I'm just shrinking down that line. And now I'm going to delete these itty bitty pieces we don't need anymore. All right. And then over here, we can just, oops, clicked one too many times. We can just line that up. And because I have the snapping on right now, it'll just snap right over there. That is something that I did not have on when I was doing my, and there, that was double, so I can just get rid of the second one. I did not have snapping on whenever I was doing the course, but that's right here with this magnet, and you can turn that on. That's one of those things that I find really helpful sometimes and really not others. And so it's hard to know. I default usually to having it off, but I had it on for another thing I was doing earlier. It wasn't sewing related, and so I'm just going to leave it on. I'm not worried about the way this all looks right here. And I never ungrouped that piece. I was able to just double click enough times to get to where I needed. So that one's good to go. I do think I'm going to want to cut this on the fold. So I'm going to ungroup. And I'm going to, well, actually, that'll work. Yep. I'm just going to delete that bit. and ungroup and delete. Oh, that time it didn't work. So we'll highlight all these guys and delete that bit. Oh, too many things. We need one of those lines. Now we got it. Okay. So I've got a front and a back. Now they'll be cut on the fold. I'm going to want those folds on the same side, but we'll deal with that in a second. And that and that. So I think this needs to look a lot more like the floral fabric layout. So first I'm just going to scooch. Let's see, we're going to have to regroup this. I'm just going to scooch all my stuff out of my way. And then I'm going to make a quote unquote piece of fabric for myself. And I'm going to make this piece of fabric. I'm going to measure my fabric actually. So my fabric is about 55 inches wide and 2 yards long. But because when I cut, I'm going to turn these pieces sideways, I'm actually going to flip that, right? So my height is going to be 55 divided by 2. I'm just going to say 26 inches. And my width will then be that 72 of the 2 yards. And this is going to make sense because this right here is going to be the fold of my fabric, right? This is the fold, and we're going to cut on the fold. So I want this piece to get rotated like this, and it's going to get cut on the fold. And I want this piece to get rotated like this and then flipped like this, and it's going to get cut on the fold. Oops. Oh, cooperate with me, please. There we go. And then this piece, we want to get flipped like this, and we're cutting that on the fold, so then we get 2 pieces. Okay, my piece went behind there. It's because my rectangle is in the wrong spot. So I'm going to fix that. Problem solved. And then this. So yeah, so this, the way that I'm cutting this, it's going to make more sense if I just have this twice like this, and I don't have it doubled this way. So if I delete that, it'll make more sense. Okay, I'm going to delete this guy entirely, and I can double this guy. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to line everything up on the fold. Now this is where snapping is not so helpful because it doesn't always, see how this sees that the edge is up here because it's got this circle right there? It's not always as easy as you would think. But this one, because it doesn't have anything sticking out to the side, it sees, oh yeah, that's the edge of that, and it snaps really nicely. It just sort of depends on your fabric. Now this one, I'm going to scoot this way a little bit, but I mean, it doesn't really fit anywhere else. I just don't want this one to be on the fold because obviously it's not cut on the fold. But then these guys, actually, I'm going to delete this again and do this one more time because if I get one lined up, I can line the other one up easily. Now, I am going to just ignore the bits of the pattern that are kind of sticking up past, but you are always welcome to adjust, you know, your writing or your whatever that's sticking up. Now we can see, cool, it's definitely going to fit on, I'm going to move this up just a tiny bit. It's definitely going to fit on the fabric that I have. I do think I want to scooch this over just a little bit because when I'm cutting that, I don't want it to go into it, that curve. But this straight line, if I cut it once and cut it neatly, I don't have to double cut that. So this is my plan now for cutting out my lining. And I am going to just kind of center this in the page a little bit. I'm going to get that right here. And then I'm going to grab all of this and kind of scooch it up and just make it a little bit less difficult for me to find whenever I'm scrolling. And yeah, there we go. So this is what I'm going to use to cut. I'm going to save it. And I appreciate you coming along on this journey with me. And hopefully now you're going to see the shirt all finished. Hey friends, thanks for watching. I really hope that the middle bit of this video was really helpful to you if you were needing to make a lining for something in Affinity Designer. I hope that even if you use another vector program, maybe it's got your juices flowing and you're able to figure out how to make it work on that program. I am in love with this shirt, so thank you for coming along on the journey to get here. And if you would like to learn more about Affinity Designer, go ahead, check out my website. Link is in the description box. ad4sewing.com. Can't wait to see you in the course. Bye, friends.
Thanks for watching my videos. Like, subscribe, and comment.